The Game of Life and how to play it. And I wrote about that book a tiny bit in OO because it's, I love her work. It's different than this, and this goes off in other directions that she didn't go into. But there's pieces of what she wrote about that are so basic to what we're doing. And one thing that she wrote about is making a demonstration of faith. And this is how it's connected to gratitude, and it's how it's connected to offering. A lot of people will have a problem. Let's go to money because it comes up a lot. So, I just don't have enough money. No matter what I do, I don't have enough money, and I just keep offering it to the divine, and nothing happens, and I just get more and more frustrated, and I think I want to go back to just trying to manifest because offering doesn't really work, and you just hear all that stuff coming out. Now, what to me Florence Scovel Shinn would say, or I would say, from, applying this is you have to make a demonstration of faith, which is coming out of, it's an action that you take that says, I am aligning with abundance. You can't just keep saying, I have nothing, I'm offering it all to the divine, and I'm pissed off that nothing's coming. You have to make a demonstration of faith. And that's why, when we got in the other calls into things like tithing is a demonstration of faith. It's saying, I have enough that I can take a certain percentage and appreciate back things in my world that I believe in or things that have supported me. It's a demonstration of abundance. And, the same thing, one of the classic ways, it's, to me, gratitude is a demonstration of faith. It's like saying, I will be grateful for what I already have so that I'm open to what wants to come next, as opposed to I'm just going to be pissed off about what I already have. All it does is close the hands. So it's a demonstration of your alignment with the divine. And I probably haven't focused on it enough as a key part of this, because I do it so spontaneously myself. And all of a sudden I thought, when I was in Mexico, oh my God, I really need to explain better making a demonstration of faith. One of the classic examples of it is that, there's a story, I think it's from Africa, where there was a drought, and the people in the village, it was basically a given that the way that they would deal with the drought is that they would do a ceremony not to pray for rain, but to thank the earth for all the rain that was going to fall. They would already be in a state of gratitude for the blessings unseen. That's a demonstration of faith. Or, another example is, it's an old story, I don't even know where it comes from, but about, somehow all these stories about rain and water, but there's another one where there were some people, and they, again, were in some kind of drought, and they had no faith that anything was going to change, and they were with a guy who was an elder or something, and he basically said, build ditches all around the village to capture the rain. And they were like, are you crazy? It hasn't rained here in forever. And he's like, go build the ditches. And then the rain fell and it filled all the ditches. And they were like, how did you know? And he was like, it's a demonstration of faith. You are actively saying, despite current appearances, I am putting my alignment with the divine. This is nothing to do with manifesting garbage. Like, this has nothing to do with making a list of the ego and then visualizing everything you want. This is saying the divine is my source, so let me make a demonstration of living in that alignment. And so that's why, tithing and those things, they fit with that. You could have $100 to your name. I've watched people do this and take 5 of it and say, I am abundant. I am abundant. My abundance comes from divine source. I will make a demonstration of that abundance by taking this $5 and offering it to somebody who has even less than me. You see what I mean? So it's all part of that thing. You put yourself, just by that demonstration of faith, into an active posture of receptivity and abundance. And I'll give you an example of it from Mexico, because a couple things happened, and I guess this is part of what got me thinking about the topic. When I was making my reservations to go down there was a place. I actually have some friends who have like this little B&B, and I stayed with them, I don't know, 10 years ago. And when I was first setting up the reservation, I was trying to make it to just spend, a good chunk of time staying at their place because I liked it. And for some reason, they answered me about the first 3 days, and then they never answered me about the week after that. So all I had were the first 3 days. And, I wrote them, never got any answer. Well, the way I look at this stuff is that I won't chase things. If I reach out for something and, after a couple times or whatever, I'm just not getting an answer, I give it back to God, and I just am like, okay, there must be another plan. So what happened is that there was a second place, and that showed up in the meantime. And the woman had 4 nights, and I knew her place as well. It was another place I'd stayed at years ago. So I basically said, okay, I'm not hearing from the first place. I'll take the first 3 nights that they say. I'm going to make a demonstration of faith that the divine knows exactly where to take me on this trip, and I'm going to book with the second place that's come up, even though it means changing location. So I booked the 4 nights with her. She had a non-refundable policy. So once I booked that, that was it. And didn't you know, the minute I booked it with her, next day, my friends reached me back and they were like, oh, sorry, we've been out of town, blah, blah. Well, by that point, I had the second place. So I said, okay, I'll come back to you for the final 3 nights. And so that was how I booked the trip, like 3 nights with them, 4 nights at this whole other spot in town, and then 3 nights back with them. So I was telling this friend of mine before the trip that this is how I was going to do the trip. And she's like, God, are you crazy? It's like you're going to be, needing to pack up and then move to the second place and then pack up again and move back to the first place and, blah, 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 blah. I was like, you know what? This is the way the Shakti, this is the way the universe brought it. Otherwise, they would have ridden me right back and given me all 10 days. But it worked out this way. For some reason, I need to spend 4 nights at the other spot. So I'm all good with that. Like, that's the alignment with the flow. Okay, so here's what happened. This is like where I love, if you give up this focus on what the ego wants to manifest and you start moving spontaneously with the flow of what God brings to you. Here's how this worked out. So I get to the place with my friends for the first 3 nights, and it's really great. And I'm a tiny bit sad that after those 3 nights, I'm going to move. They live way up in a hill outside of town, and the other place was right in the middle of town. I'm a little bit sad that on the 4th night I'm moving down, but I'm all good with it. So on the morning of the 4th day, I, go down. It really was all of a 15-minute walk. Walk down, move my things to the new place. Here's what happened. On the 4th day, I think some of you might have known this from the Facebook page, I got sick as a dog. I got this really, really intense cold while I was there. And I literally had 3 days almost entirely in bed. So the place that I moved down to was right in the center of town. And because of that, and because that's where I was sick, I was able once or twice a day to go out and get hot soup and go out and get orange juice and basically go out. It was literally in the center of everything. I was able to take care of myself. If I had been staying at the first place for those middle 4 days, I would have been stuck. I would have had no access to stores, no access to anything. I would have been on the top of a hill by myself. So, it was really fascinating. It was like the way this whole thing lined up. And I'm sure I'd love it if some of you wrote about this stuff on the pages where when you finally let go and let life do it the way it wants to do it, these synchronicities happen that are just mind-boggling. It's like somehow the universe knew that this intense cold was going to come, that was going to lay me out flat on my back for 3 days, and that I was going to spend that in the center of town getting everything I needed. There was like all the best Mexican chicken soup, and it was like everything I needed was right there. There was even, it was just perfect. And then by the 4th day there, I was almost all better. And then I took my stuff and I went back up to the other location for the final 3 nights. And it was just, there was this perfection. Like the universe knew. So I just want to encourage you. It's like, notice the things that come, and no matter what you're trying to do to change it, like I was, trying to shift these dates around or whatever, the universe just keeps bringing you back to the same thing. Be open to the idea that it truly is happening for a reason. And that's your demonstration of faith. Now, it doesn't mean if something feels horrible, you're supposed to say yes to it. Or if you're in some abusive relationship, you're supposed to say, I'm going to make a demonstration of faith and stay here and have my, crap kicked out of me. I don't mean that. I mean the things that come that are mysteries. And the mind has some whole other idea of what should be happening. And meanwhile, all it takes is a shift of perspective, and you're like, wait a minute. Over and over, the universe is bringing me back to this spot. So I'll tell you one more. I'll tell you one more story from Mexico, because it also just made me think of this. When I was there, it was really cold. I was in the mountains, and I had this leather jacket with me. And once I was better, and I was back, up and about, the lining of my jacket ripped. So I was sitting in this cafe, and there was an American guy there who was an expat. He lived there. And I basically said, do you know a seamstress in town? Is there a tailor or a seamstress where I could get this jacket fixed? And, you ever just say something random to somebody and they kind of go off? So he just went into this long thing about how, he was just so frustrated with Mexico because he could not find a good seamstress or a good tailor in this town. Like he just said, give it up now. No one's going to be able to fix this. It's just, just one of those things, deal with it when you go back to the States. He just went on and on and on until I finally was just like, okay, thank you. That's fine. It's not a big deal. My jacket can be ripped. Well, when I finally left him, all I could hear inside was Google. I literally could only hear the word Google. So I pulled out my phone and I thought, I'm just going to Google seamstress for this town. And it's just totally made me laugh. Basically, by Googling that, there was one seamstress who came highly recommended, and she was across the street from where I currently was. It was like I was at 57 Carrero and she was at 49 Carrero. So it was like after this long speech from this guy about this, when you finally just go back inside and listen, she was literally like kitty corner, 2-second walk across the street in a tiny little hut that you never would have seen behind another building. I literally walked in, handed her the jacket, and half an hour later it was totally fixed. And it just made me think how, if some of you might have seen that, I wrote that piece a few weeks ago about ignoring bad advice. It's like so often somebody will give you, he didn't mean any harm, he just was venting his own thing. Somebody will give you an entire speech about how something cannot happen. That will not be happening for you. You will be frustrated. You will be this, you will be that. And you just have to ignore it and go, God is the ultimate authority on what's going to happen here. And sometimes the answer after you leave that person is across the street from you.